get your sandbag. We have widely advertised our sandbag location or collection point, and urge you as communities to get involved, because there are persons who may not have transport to get sandbag, and therefore community organizations have been getting together to aid in transport. And I also want to tell you that the flood mitigation is an instrument serious formation. This is your what you have seen is a reduction in flooding on homes and infrastructure as a result of relief and proactive collaboration between the Ministry of Development, Ministry of Risk, and Ministry of Agriculture and what I can tell you is that a short while ago, the method was extended from the level of
Psalm 27, The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life, of whom shall I be afraid? When the wicked came against me to eat up my flesh, my enemies and foes, they stumbled and fell. Though an army may encamp against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war may rise against me, my heart shall not fear. Though war may rise.
Yes, indeed, of course, a pleasant good night to all and sundry, East, West, South, South Central, of President Tobago, and wherever you are, streaming on the World Wide Web, a pleasant good day to you. But you would have seen, of course, in the background that because of the inclemency of the weather, the government of the day has moved into very serious action. And of course, what you are witnessing is, of course, an excerpt or part of the goings-on that took place today in the post-cabinet, let's say, recording to the population. Let me just make sure that something isn't, something is echoing there, and I don't want to be like the fella who was only stammering all the time, and when the policeman come, because there was some incident that the policeman come, and he wanted to start to say that boy, that fella lash me first, and the next one say no, it's not so. So they call the policeman, and the policeman make an intervention, and they started telling him, well, what happened? They say he lash me first. The next one say he telling story. Here the policeman what happened? All him mocking me or what? Yes, indeed. So that is how it is sometimes, right? So here it is. We are, of course, in a situation. Let me just give you a little snapshot of what is happening on the compound right here on George Street. Let me just tell you what is happening. Tomorrow is a big day, and of course there are much preparations taking place, and we are, of course, engaged in preparatory mood. Just take a
Psalm 27, The Lord is my light and my salvation, whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life, of whom shall I be afraid?
Right, there's a special thing that is happening tomorrow morning. We are formally opening, of course, our employment and resource center. Let me get it clear. Our employment and resource center. Of course, it has to do with empowerment. It has to do with training. It has to do with young people in particular, who, of course, say that they have skills, but nowhere to, of course, exhibit it or to engage or convert it into money. And therefore, of course, what we did right here on George Street is to, of course, set up an employment and resource center. So tomorrow, guess who will be visiting us in order, of course, to open formally the center? Yes. Well, just in case you didn't know, well, Anil Roberts and Philip Alexander, both ministers in the Ministry of Housing, will be with us around, I'd say around 10:30, when, of course, the formal opening of the center will take place. So I thought I should, of course, boast a little bit and to give you an insight as to what is happening. That is the benefit of modern technology. You could do things instantaneously. And, of course, you could do it in real time. And, of course, without any fetter because of the internet, clearly. That being as it may, but, of course, today was not a very good day for Trinidad and Tobago. A lot of rain. I think it's what orange alert. That is a bit higher than that of yellow alert, even though it started out, of course, with yellow alert. But so I thought it was important, of course, for us to take in a little bit as to what transpired today in the post-cabinet meeting that would, of course, given us a fair idea as to what has happened in Trinidad and Tobago. I think I might be able to, at the same time, simultaneously put some of the some clips of the various flooding, or I may well not do that. I may well do it one after the next. But the fact of the matter is that that has happened. Whether or not I got the phone rectified on the system, you will have to determine that. But I am prepared. Of course, I'm armed with my handphone, and when you call, I'll simply, of course, have to engage until we can rectify that problem. I'm not a technical man, but I will be visiting, of course, Cyrus, the man that cures all virus as far as computers are concerned. So I'll be visiting him tomorrow. Tomorrow, of course, being my Sabbatal, so I will not be here tomorrow night. I will be, of course, at my usual Prince Street engagement, let me put it that way. But that being as it may, let's take in some of the goings-on that went on today at the post-cabinet press conference. It is clear from what I have seen that the Prime Minister was not there, but a very able-bodied women and men were there, and they, of course, delivered this to the national community for their consumption.
So thank you for joining us. This evening you start with welcoming the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, General Khadija.
So let's see what's happening. Sorry for my jumping, but it's a burst balloon. I know some time ago I was docking in the midst of a program and it went viral. But this time it's a burst balloon. So I'll advise them not to blow it too large so that we don't have much of those pow sessions. All right? Because I may well have to dock because I may well forget. So let's hear Khadija Amin and an update as to what is happening with the flooding and what has taken place over the last 24 hours.
In Tunapuna Piako region, we have two completely collapsed roadways. One at Biggest Road, Pool Village, Rio Claro, and one at Heights of Aripo in Arima. We have dispatched engineering teams to make recommendations so that we could immediately make provisions for residents to access their homes. We have 8 reports of 8 damaged roofs in Port of Spain, Princestown, Separia, and Rio Claro region. We had 1 fire incident in Princestown region amidst all of the rain. We have a lot of flooding in the Piako, Tunapuna-Piako region, St. Helena, Kelly Village, Caroni, Caparo, Manuel Congo, and the Piako area. In the Sandy Grande region, Coal Mine, North Oropuch, Vega de Oropuch, La Saiva Road. In Cuva, Tabaki, Talparo region, Chinchin Road, Petersfield Road, Conupia, Las Lomas, Brazil, San Rafael. We also have in Arima and Chaguanas. I want to commend the Minister of Education. Last night, following a conversation with the Minister of Education, Dr. Michael Dowlett, the Ministry of Rural Development and the Ministry of Education coordinated to ensure that transportation was available, to make sure that every student was able to attend school to sit CAPE exams despite the widespread flooding. Transport was provided in the form of troop carriers from the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment. The regional corporations provided trucks, and our disaster management unit provided dinghies.
I know that most of you are listening, but if you want to make your calls, you can do so. I will simply pause and, of course, entertain or accept your calls. So you're free to do. Don't forget, of course, for the new callers, the number to call is 337-6940. 337-6940. This is, yes, the Thursday night edition of the Corridor Transformation.
Tunapuna, Piako, and Cuva, Tabaki, Talparo region. So I want to thank the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment for their support. We have CAPE examinations continuing tomorrow, and all support systems will remain in place to ensure that students arrive safely. These are compulsory A-level exams, and so it is important for all our Form 6 students. We give you parents the assurance that we will ensure that your child gets to school and they write their exams, and we will give you the full support to ensure that that is done. The Minister of Education this morning also directed the National Schools Dietary Services Limited, the school feeding program, to have a total of 391 meals delivered this morning, June 11th, to some of the affected areas. So in Penal Debe, we had 171 lunches, Tunapuna Piako 120 lunches, Cuva Tabakit 100 lunches. These meals were provided by caterers on the school feeding program, but these meals went to support students, first responders, volunteers, and marooned persons. We appreciate that, and it also meant that a conversation has started about incorporating the school nutrition program in our planning for disaster preparedness and reaching out to those in times of flooding. In terms of getting ready and staying ready, staying alert, we also had 450 sandbags, a total of 450 sandbags distributed across affected regions between yesterday and today. We had in the Port of Spain, Tunapuna Piako, Arima, Cuva Tabakit, and Penal Debe, having the highest numbers of
and then we'll get back to Kadisha, the Minister of Local Government. Pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor. Loud and clear, my friend, loud and clear. Oh yeah, because one time, you know what I was thinking of? They might have done some of the things that she was mentioning, but certainly, if they would have had exams, Raul and them would have tell them, well, wait until next year, it had exam again. But here it is, a very simple exercise. All they had to do was to provide them with transportation to make certain that persons in difficult circumstances get to the exam room, and you could, of course, have the best of all the worlds, because to delay exam by a year frustrates students. I can tell you that because when I fail a particular subject and I was so damn good in it, I decided not to go back. So I could imagine not to go and do the exam, having been prepared because of inclement weather. So I want to commend the government for that initiative. Go ahead, my friend.
And they will be telling you they can't do nothing till the flood water go down.
Yeah, they would have told you wait until the flood water go down because they can't do nothing. Yes.
Yeah, look at them.
Yeah, but here it is. Here it is. I'm hearing about dinghy, meaning that of course those small flat bottom boats, etc., 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 in order to make certain that movement take place, because of course people have to get hot meals, and but of course in the Rowley era, I remember very distinctly they say that they wait until the water subside.
I tell
Yeah,
you why.
so people remain hungry, and of course with the wet clothes that they might have, wearing and all of that. I think it was pathetic, stupid, and evil. But go ahead.
And don't care and you don't give a damn.
Yeah. You had to find ways and means, man, to be humane. Yeah.
You have to find ways and means.
That's right. Yeah. Because you see, if you put yourself in their position, you wouldn't want to be there. But Rowley and they believe that they could be. The PNM believe that there is an elitist class. They must eat the best, drink the best, and the rest must, of course, grovel. And they have no concern whether or not their circumstance ought to be improved, even though they're being paid and they're utilizing the state resources to, of course, fatten their own, what I consider be pockets or their bodies. Go ahead.
Yes, no, my main contribution.
Yes.
Apart from that, imagine they recommending a special branchman and this Benjamin who's the acting police commissioner. Yeah, and the public service commissioner, which is.
The police service commission, yeah.
Yeah, police service commission. You really think I'm not going to take on that? Especially the special branch people. How did they take on them? They like them. And you think she will forget special branch when she can't bring down? And they hear that only on them in the election. They leave she there stranded. And they're going to happen to the woman. It's a good thing she had her cell phone and she called home and what's that, right?
Yeah, and I think this guy that is being recommended by the Police Service Commission is a seasoned campaigner, meaning that I think he would have been Assistant Commissioner of Police at one point in time, from my understanding, as well as, of course, Wayne, Mr. who, of course, is being recommended for Deputy Commissioner at this time.
Oh, watch me. The police are all plenty of them say they know not why.
Yeah. Let me... caller, just hold on. I don't know if I have the same problem tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, it appears that I have. All right. So what I'll do, I'll take on this caller when the handset is cleared. Go ahead. Tagari, go.
Yeah, boy, Lennox.
Yeah.
Right away. Come I want to part of that fella.
All right.
Yet the proof that she got her own people. I telling you.
All right.
And she will give them a deadline to submit somebody else. And she will propose who she wants.
Yeah, but you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you have
like to show you
a governor of the central bank that is so full of himself that he refuses to provide information to the government, who has overall responsibility to take care of the economy and to put money and to find money to put in that same bank.
Watch me. They should walk in and hold you out and pull him outside and bring him out on the road because he played the answer Lennox.
Well, of course.
But as far as the commissioner of police concerned, I'm not taking none of them two fellas.
All right.
Give them an ultimatum whenever they have the next parliamentary meeting to come back with somebody else. And she got to tell them who she put in, and I have a pretty good idea who that is. And I know you have a good idea who that is too.
Yeah, man.
And when the time comes, and they come to the vote, it's not sure when the vote is sweeping majority, you know?
Yes.
I'm not taking no chance of it, you know?
Now, from here on, you can't take chances. We understand the belligerence of the 13th Parliament that a very slim, what I consider to be opposition, a very slim opposition, but yet still they blow their trumpet as if they are empty vessels making plenty noise. And you don't want any undermining. That is the important thing.
Yeah, them go look like real jackass in the parliament tomorrow.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes.
I could see that happening already.
Yeah.
They already said George or nothing there to protect them, you know.
And imagine they're going in there with the balize emblazoned on their ties or on whatever tunic that they may have on. That will be an interesting development. That is archaic. That is, of course, what I consider to be Jurassic, going back in the past, and it shows how out of touch this group of individuals are, and this party, and therefore should be relegated to the dustbin of history in this country. Yeah.
So the speaker can't tell them they can't come in here with that, but they don't matter.
Yeah, well, the speaker should be able to, but they use the privilege of being, of course, members of parliament, elected members. So it's really the strangers, the people in the gallery, they can direct. Yeah, and let them put him out, but he will be seen as a stranger. Whereas, of course, you can't tell elected members what to wear. That is the principle. But, of course, we see that that's an unprincipled position where you enter the chamber with, of course, your party symbol. And when the chamber is supposed to be a place where the people's business, and it has nothing to do with partisan, or any kind of what I consider a myopic disposition that you would have. It is about the people's business.
That looks like the most disgraceful parliament ever in the history of this country.
Yeah.
Let them was powerful.
Yeah, once them start to wear balize inside of it, we know that they are anachronistic. They have lost touch with reality. They are desperate, and therefore all that desperation demonstrates uncanny ability to self-destruct. And that is what's going to happen.
You know why all of them get so noticed, Lennox?
Yeah.
And he said George encouraged him.
Is that?
The speaker encouraged him.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
To get them stupid, they get so full of themselves.
Yeah.
We are saying that.
So they can't even recall that the speaker will not be the person who encouraged them in getting more and more arrogant. It's very interesting it will be very interesting times in the parliament. I can assure you of that.
Yeah, they lose the ability to market parliamentarians.
Yes.
But she encouraged them in that, so tomorrow.
Yeah, but I noticed. I'm gonna give a prediction here now. What they are going to do? They are going to engage in being the victim. They're going to coin utterances to suggest that they are the victim of something because of the overwhelming presence of the present government and the Kamala Prasad Bisesa-led coalition of interests. So they are going to do that all the time and look for sympathy. Well, when I hear people on the ground report, for example, I stop wanting to participate with any lengthy contribution. I prefer to hear the people because they have awakened and are smart just as I am, and understand that all of that is part of their theatrics, part of their cadre of attempting to revive themselves, but at the same time they really and truly is doing the opposite. They are killing themselves, and who am I to stop them from killing themselves? So let them commit political and other suicide, because some people are so badly damaged. I heard Al-Rawi saying that they are shell-shocked. Those who are neophytes, but he himself is a neophyte from the shell-shock talk that he is talking, because to say that they will only last 12 months, I think it is a fallacy and a fantasy. Extraordinary, yeah.
Madness have no limitations, eh?
Yeah.
So they could do anything, and them could do so much as shit tomorrow.
Yeah.
Everybody laugh. One thing before I go again.
Go ahead.
On the news tonight, I hear for some comments, ranting and raving, you know.
Yeah, saying what?
So they had a bacchanal that everybody had no right to be in some conference. They had their own bacchanal going there too.
I didn't see it. I'll see it tonight.
Yes, I see it on the news tonight.
Okay.
You get a copy or something, but when he gets it, he go talk.
All right.
But he gave you trouble.
Yeah. It is internecine. What I consider to be conflict, and they are going to bite at each other. They are going to go at each other's throat. That's why I call that bunch Tower of Babel.
Right, and the last thing.
Go ahead.
Yes, Mr. Nobody who does call the program.
Yeah.
Something wrong with that fella. When a man could make a statement that the children in the school fight, sir, they are not citizens. What do you actually mean by that?
I hear you.
They're not citizens. Explain to me what do you mean by that?
All right.
Citizens of the country, how you could say they're not citizens, they are wards. That fella is a dummy, you know. He think he's the best political analyst in this country, and he's a so
Well, you know, to each his own. It's still a democracy, especially now. And while you may disagree, of course, you have to defend to the hilt the right for the man to speak, even though he's speaking nonsense.
Huh?
I say you defend the right to speak, the principle of speech, even though a man may be or woman may be talking nonsense, but they have a right to speak. Yeah.
The school children are tourists.
Yeah.
They're not citizens of the country.
They are, of course.
Well, how are you going to start off your contribution and say the children are not citizens?
They are wards of the state.
Yeah.
You see, he want anyhow. Let me just say it because I was thinking about what up clouds. What up clouds? Yeah, that is a ward at the state. And anyhow, somebody's calling. Let's go. All right. Okay. Let me just get that. Pleasant good night. Welcome. Pleasant good night. Welcome. Yes, ma'am.
I will ask each and every one tonight
Yes.
to say good night and to ask for the 40,000 to reach up. And if you have $1 or $4, you could donate it.
Yes, ma'am.
We will take the $4. And I would like to say share the life to all in sundry.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
The PNM who defend evil and wickedness and murder and crime, that tomorrow all their so forth leader is asking all to protest the stand the ground legislation so that criminals will have a lucrative business against the citizens of who have a little business,
Yeah.
an entity, so the lucrative business. So once again, we can safely say the PNM is a party of criminal elements. So let me repeat it again. So once again, we can say the PNM is a party of criminal elements. And to justify my statement is that they killed 4 men in a pipeline, leave them over 36 hours while the Prime Minister played with the balls on the golf course with the boys. I mean, he played with the boys on the golf course. And Stuart Young, wait to hear to cover it up.
Well, of course,
So,
would you be adding to that the 5,000 plus that died, met their demise during COVID, and of course those premature babies that died in Port Spain Hospital, and I think discovered also in Mount Hope. Are you adding those to it? Because you have at least 4 ministers of death in the Rowley administration. You had he himself. You had, of course, Dias Singh, and you also had, of course, the Minister of National Security having regard to the multiple record-breaking number of murders in a short space of in consecutive years by, of course, the Rowley PNM-led, Rowley-led PNM administration. Are you adding those to that murderous period of Trinidad and Tobago's history?
Yes, I am.
Good.
And I would like to add that if I did not add it, my when they go to the Auditor General,
Yes.
I will be short of 5,000 murders at Augustus Long and Point 14, the arbiter of killing.
Yeah,
they
boy.
also kill the people and them in COVID, deprive them the medicine.
And they must,
that their
you
family buy.
must do that. You must give blame where blame is due. Let them absolve themselves, or of course try to get absolution from their maker. But in the meantime, they are among us. They are living on earth, and they have done that to citizens of this country. And we must, of course, call them out for who they are.
And my Lord Jesus Christ, when the Almighty sent a man to walk amongst the humans on earth, he said unto us, render unto Caesar what is Caesar, and render unto God is just due. And the 18 babies who didn't stand a chance,
Yeah, boy.
and those who defend the killing of those babies and them by gross negligence, they are saying that you have to answer. And when I finished with the COVID, when Parasam tried to cover it up, I will like you. They take a pan of biscuit to hide it. I will keep singing this song. And I want Penny, come and see a Penny, that Beckles, who is the leader, opposition leader, the first PNM leader, to justify and give a report on that. Because my esteemed political leader will be doing an investigation in that. Come hell high waters. And I would like to say, you see these young fellas and then in the diaspora who went and killed one another like in the Wild Wild West?
Yes.
Yeah? Who give them the gun laws to tote arms and to do shooting against each other? It's the PNM. So we the UNC is giving the citizens the right to bear arms to defend themselves, while we only give illegal guns to the citizens to wipe out themselves. So, Uncle Lennox, I would like to say to all in sundries that Vera, I would like to ask you, Vera, the independent senator, did he ever collect any state brief from the state? And
Yeah, I was wondering why would the present president give him another bite at the independent bench cherry? Because I mean he has proven to be a fella who, of course, is very controversial and of course biased and of course very what I consider to be hypocritical, as we saw how he dealt with that situation with Anil Roberts when he made this what I consider to be specious argument for a statement Anil Roberts made outside of the parliament. And yes, he brought it inside of the parliament and say that the then president of the Senate, the present president of the country, Kangaloo, was disrespected. And then of course they colluded and went to work on him, where he had to, of course, effect an apology. But go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, and is it not that the same independent senator was talking to judges and judges was talking to he about the behavior and certain things will damage this country integrity? No, you see this show on your forum, I would like to use it as I tell you already, to bring the highlights of the ills. And this is what brings us here today. Because if we didn't have a voice to talk and speak out openly, these are the things that the PNM machinery.
Yeah, they want to hide these things under the carpet, absorb themselves. They alone must absorb themselves. But of course, we know of persons who generate self-praise. As the old saying goes, self-praise is no praise. So let the jackasses and them bray and give themselves praise. Whilst, of course, we we extract and project, and of course make certain that we pin on them every single iniquity that they would have perpetrated on the people. Whether you want to call it revenge, whether you want to call it bellicose, whether you want to call it acrid, the fact of the matter is that it is good psychological therapy for the entire population, not only to be relieved of that kind of draconian measures and wicked policies and programs, but also to tell them in their faces now, because if they were in government, you couldn't do it, because they are prepared, of course, to lego the police officers, whether it's riot squad, whether it be, of course, gas, tear gas squad, and whether or not you just have to shut up because they want to appear to be pristine and immaculate, while, of course, they commit these atrocities against the people. We have a duty to let them know we always knew, and that they must pay for their sins, inclusive of blue lights and silver bracelet. Go ahead.
And the next one is Timol. I want to ask him, is his organization ever get any state funding to fund the organization from the state? Because you know why I say these two things? And I ask him these questions. You cannot be benefited from the state and then saying you are independent. Where you going to be neutral in a place for the people business? Because these are questions I want to ask and get answered. And then I want to ask the other thing. The private public sector and the new wing in Port of Spain, I asked Dr. Bodo to guide the media on that too. Let me see it. The first one and first class health facility there. Then I want them to go down to the St. James side and show we the new forensic lab there, the defense minister, right? I want them to show me the new lab, the forensic $120 million US. And then I would like the health minister to say how much, our present health minister to say how much cancer patient is being treated at the Augustus Lawn, where NGC spent $10 million US for Mark Lukwan, who take $135 million and nearly blow up the whole Southwestern. We want to know how much the patient was treated and who is getting treatment there. Because Malcolm Jones had a dialysis machine in the back pocket to go anywhere he go.
Depriving the rest of the population from that service. Go ahead.
Yeah. And they're not going to distract me that the Venezuelan and Maduro, because I will ask Stuart Young, and I will ask Rowley, and I will ask Shell, that if Maduro is so bad, put a sanction on Trinidad and cancel the deal and license. Because your $1 million US are sure it will be cancelled. But you see, when they want to put up smoke screen and have you talking other way, election done. But the talk is done, the PNM have questions to answer. And I see that is coming with certain words to talk. So I want to know that on the 10th of October, what they're going to say, if they can't say Chinese, yeah? You can't say Chinese on the radio now. I want to see when they say the Chinese festival. You see how thick it is? And I want to ask a senior counsel, did you ever get any bunkering license to bunker fuel? I want to answer that question. Because here what's going on. Or they have a non-disclosure, or they have we got to go to release freedom. And all that thing. I'm asking it now. Right? And I'm entitled as a neutral citizen, according to Stuart Richard Young. I am a citizen of the Republic of a dual island called Trinidad and Tobago. I'm asking about my money. What all the sell out this state asset, all the borrow money, and then all they tell me and say that I will have a better life. And up to now I can't see where that money spent. And here, you are not answering, you don't want to answer the question? Then I know a million to talk to the dead. Right? But just remember, this behavior in public office is a cardinal sin. All you can hold on and hide all the books. Do all I want. But we're going to find the errors. And we know how, because they can't say, all are borrowing, all are selling the asset. And the money are there. You will say how much the central bank collected. Have a nice night, Uncle Lennox.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Of course, all I want us to conclude is that he has made several statements about several persons, and I just want, of course, to demystify the individuals. He started, of course, with Al-Wari and his, of course, insider trading, if it was a business, or put another way, his recusal, and whilst there, of course, feasting off the state coffers with those buildings of himself and his family. He also, of course, looked at the whole question of Rowley's favorite lawyers, whether it be, of course, Michael Kwamina, who was made the chairman of the legacy company, the holding company, that eventually replaced partially the Petrotrin in the most bizarre and most what I consider to be unpatriotic and clearly bordering on treason when they closed down Petrotrin and plunged over 65,000 of our citizens into a situation of darkness, economic darkness, social darkness, some of whom, of course, committed suicide. Others had to leave the country, and therefore their families would have been what I consider to be unraveled. Yes, we also have, of course, the Bonkaman, another lawyer of Rowley, but at the same time was also the chairman of TAT, the Trinidad and Tobago Telecommunications Authority. And of course, he gave us no end of worries on the ground report. In particular, wherever we went, he was there like a tick in a dog rear. Yes, that is what that fella did. And then was given, of course, a bunker license in the face of the not yet disclosed to the population what the government intended to do by closing down Petrotrin, with, of course, another bogus rationality. Whilst all of the 24 million and counting tree reports never indicated, never suggested, never hinted that the oil refinery should be closed down. That is the level of despicable conduct that Rowley, Penelope Beckles, and all of those persons there, except for one, but he has acclimatized. I'm talking about young Marcel, a total, of course, a neophyte, at Johnny Come Lately, one wet behind the ears. But talking about what? Balize is what? You cut it down and so on. But as one fella said, if you dig it up, if you dig it to France up, I'm sure it can't grow back. It's only desert as a consequence. So let them exhibit their illusions. And as I like to say, manic depressive psychosis episodes. Let me repeat, manic depressive psychosis. Manic depressive psychosis. That is what they are ailing from. And of course, as some other psychologists may say, they are suffering from, of course, cognitive dissonance. cognitive dissonance. They didn't realize yet that they lost the election. They didn't realize yet how badly they were beaten. They didn't realize yet that they are talking ad nauseum to the point of sickening. And suddenly they have, of course, a conscience when these unconscionable individuals had their responsibility as the current government has, and you're seeing, of course, a dramatic difference. You are seeing, of course, a total and absolute irony. You're seeing a total and absolute difference in terms of attitude, so much so that even today, when there would have been floods in certain parts of the country and rainfall, of course, unlimited, people are still optimistic. People are understanding that there is a government in place that will not sleep tonight. A government in place that would take boats, flat-bottom boats, dinghy, and of course, feed the people who would have been marooned in their homes and on their roofs, as the case may be, if such situation has occurred. That is what we are talking about. True government, caring and people-centered, not these vipers, these beasts in human form, that of course we expelled, we annihilated, we jettisoned, and we tell them no more, even though of course there is a residual of 13 in the 13th Parliament. We will deal with that in due course. There is a local government elections coming up, and of course after the 5-year period will have been completed, they too will go the way of the five that could not get a seat, so they have to be hidden now. One or two of them in the Senate are talking about Al-Rari and are talking about Cummins, who don't know if he coming or he going. That is the level of revenge the people has taken on these people electorally, very peacefully, but they don't want to go. They don't want to accept the fact that they are persona non grata, that they have been annihilated, that they have been expunged from the Trinidad and Tobago politics. Well, just a matter of time when they would have to face reality. But let's go back, of course, to Kadisha Amin, the Minister of Local Government, and hear what she has to say with respect to the flooding situation that has occurred over the last day or so, the last 24 to 48 hours.
Bags distributed. We had additional support of items, including tarpaulins and mattresses, which were distributed to affected families. Sandbags are available at every regional corporation. And I want to repeat to members of the public, please do not wait until the water is at your doorstep to get your sandbags. We have widely advertised our sandbag location or collection points, and we urge you as communities too to get involved, because there are persons who may not have transport to get the sandbags, and therefore community organizations have been getting together to aid in the transport. And I also want to tell you that this flood mitigation is an interministerial coordination. This is your entire UNC government at work for you. What we have seen is a reduced impact of flooding on homes and infrastructure as a result of early and proactive collaboration between the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, the Ministry of Works, and the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries. What I can tell you is that a short while ago, the Met Office extended the orange level alert to tomorrow, Friday 13th at 6 p.m. It means that we are going to have several hours of torrential rains and high winds. The riverine levels are already quite high. the soil is very saturated across the country. And so we are very concerned with the increased potential for flood damage to homes, collapse to roadways that have been weakened over time by small landslips, damage to crops and livestock, and the well-being of our society as a whole. In May of this year, May 13th, we launched our flood mitigation program and shelter management exercise. Between the 14th to the 19th of May, we had drainage clearance and the embankment works in areas including Caroni River Basin, the South Oropouche. We had site inspection at Caroni, Bamboo, El Carmen, Manuel Congo areas. On the 27th of May, we did inspections in the Diego Martin region, Sawa Laventil, and Port of Spain region. On June the 3rd to the 10th, that week of the 3rd to the 10th, we visited Princestown region, Mayaro, Rio Claro region, and that was actually during an adverse weather alert, a yellow alert. We have seen the impact on the agriculture sector, where farmers across the country have been affected by what you call overland flooding and loss of crops. One example of local government collaborating with the Ministry of Agriculture, I'll give you an example in my own constituency of St. Augustine in the Orange Grove area, Tacarigua, where they are bounded on the southern side by the Caroni River. That river, the bank has been eroded over time. The farmers and us as representatives in opposition had been begging for work to be done on that riverbank, and we were ignored by the previous government. Now, with our collaboration, the Minister of Agriculture brought in two pumps into the area. 3 pumps, in fact, were deployed, 2 large ones and 1 smaller one. There was a concrete structure restricting the flow of water that was removed, and that area has not seen proper drainage maintenance over the last few years. So with all the neglect of the water courses by the previous administration, it means that we have to be more intense in our response, and we have been doing that. So what we have is positive outcomes because of our early planning, our proactive approach. We are seeing faster drainage in waterlogged areas. We have seen areas where the water came up, but the runoff was much faster than before, particularly considering the fact that we are in an orange alert. We have seen fewer homes underwater. We have reduced structural damage because of that. And thankfully, so far today, minimal disruption in terms of national exams. And this is very important. And today's exercise will be repeated tomorrow to ensure that our students get to their exams on time. We have greater public readiness and awareness and participation because we have been distributing sandbags, we have been regularly updating the public, and every minister who is involved in this has been on the ground. And that gives a level of involvement in the community and adds great value so that everybody is a part of it. When the UNC win, everybody wins. So I want to urge residents, as the orange level alerts continue, to remain indoors during the periods of heavy rain and high winds. Avoid flooded roadways and rivers. Don't be a hero and try to drive through a roadway that is flooded. Your car could really wash away. I want you to follow the updates that we have, regular updates from the Met Office, from the regional corporations, from the disaster managers throughout the country. I want you to contact your regional corporation through your local government councillor. Our local government councillors are working hard. They are out there day and night. There is no Saturday and Sunday. We work every day. And I want you to report incidents so that they can support your need when you are even threatened by flood. Don't wait until you get flood. Get sandbags before the water reaches your doorstep. And I want to wrap up by expressing a heartfelt thank you to the Honorable Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissessar for her foresight and her compassion in initiating early flood preparation across all ministries. As an opposition member of Parliament for Superior, she has been on the ground in her boots, and perhaps her compassion comes from identifying with the people she represents, which is now all of Trinidad and Tobago. The Prime Minister's instruction to plan ahead and to prepare before the rainy season really enabled us as ministers, our regional corporations, and all our state agencies to move swiftly and to protect lives and support families and students in real time. I would also want to thank the mayors, our chairmen, our councillors at regional corporations, the staff. People complain that, administrative staff tend to work 8 to 4, Monday to Friday, and after 4 they go home, or even before that. I've seen people complain. We know it has been a tradition where regional corporation workers gone home by 8 o'clock.
Of course, that is Minister Kanisha. Of course, giving us an update as to what is happening across the country as far as inundations or floods are concerned, and some of the mitigating as well as some of the actual activities that would have been executed by the various ministries. She said that, of course, it's an all-of-government approach. Well, I accept that, as opposed, of course, to the all-of-government approach by the previous administration. I remember very distinctly, in an attempt to, of course, to suggest that the PNM government had an all-of-government approach as far as crime is concerned. They promised, of course, $100 million. It looked as though they put it in their pocket while they were leaving government, because no community saw it.
As an opposition MP, I would have encountered flooding. We would have made representation for the maintenance of major water courses, and they fell on deaf ears. And people of my constituency are also in high praise of our Minister of Works, who has been attending to riverbanks and pumps, and I don't envy her, because the level of neglect we have in some of those major water courses in areas where it's challenging to do work in the rainy season. But certainly the flood victims who have been flooded over and over in some of those areas are truly grateful for her intervention. So at this time, I will make way for Minister of Works, Ms. Jolene John, to address you.
Well, people, of course, as I said, this is the report today, post-cabinet, and I thought it was important, of course, for us to share with each other some of the delivery that would have been taking place then. Of course, we now have the Minister of Works at the podium.
Development and local government. I know you all are going to ask. So the other Prime Minister is in cabinet. The meeting continues, okay, Prior? Yeah, that's the only reason she's not here right now. We didn't want to keep you waiting for too much longer. So she asked that we come out, and because you would have wanted to know what was happening with this ongoing yellow alert that just seemed, orange alert, sorry, that seemed to be unrelentless. Yesterday, I spent the day working in Tobago, as a matter of fact, and the flights were turned back. Flights that would have been gotten clearance to take off from Tobago, get into Piarco, and vice versa, had to turn back mid-air because they said the visibility was actually zero. Right? Eventually, flights were given the go-ahead. Today, I heard there were about 4 or 5 flights, and that was about the midday period or so. Now, I really want to associate myself with the remarks from the Honorable Minister of Rural Development and Local Government with respect to the work that is ongoing. And it was on Tuesday, I was minding constituency business, and the councillors, and they are the heroes, in all of this, managed and led by the Honourable Minister. They really are out there and getting the job done. But over the last 48 hours, with respect to what the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, what we have been doing, we have been looking, and we have had areas under active surveillance, and embankments are being assessed all the while. As the Honourable Minister just said, we really are playing catch up. We like to be proactive in our work, to plan and to do this work. I mean, I know you have to walk and chew gum, but certainly we would have done a much better job of mitigation had there been ongoing maintenance over the last decade or so. But notwithstanding that, we are out there, we are conducting checks from the point of view of the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure, checks on gate structures to ensure that there are no leakage or backflows in specific areas such as the Piaco Airport, Bamboo Settlement number 2. We are currently prioritizing assessment of critical infrastructure such as roads, bridges, and slopes. And it's not only the ministries or the corporation, but residents are also sending in videos, very graphic videos, that really are very sad and painful to see, you know, a TNT pole leaning into people's house, the level of flooding. It really is very, very, very heartbreaking. But so, as I said, whilst this rain is wreaking havoc, we have to keep looking at the infrastructure and checking. We check the slopes, and we try to prevent any secondary impacts due to landslide or structural failure. So as we approach, because we are really now approaching the height of the rainy season, the ministry has identified key projects in areas that are particularly vulnerable to the impacts of flooding. In the short and medium term, the following interventions have been prioritized to mitigate flooding in high-risk communities such as Pinal. Last week I was in Pinal, and they were showing me an area where 1 mile of road floods, and the drains were just filled with silt and grass, overgrown, and garbage inside of there. There was a cemetery where they told me the rule of thumb with how severely flooding will be was when that graveyard flooded by 6 or 7 feet. That is sad. You understand? So basically, I said, we are not averting our eyes to these issues. You know, we are leading right into them. So as I said, the following interventions have been prioritized to mitigate in areas such as Pinal, Superior, Avocat, to name a few. And you know, these are areas we've seen for years, flooding year after year after year. They just keep flooding. And so the snapshot of our priority projects, at this time there are many. Right? There are many. So when I call these out, please don't get public, I'm telling them. So you are all priority, but in terms of where the flooding is going to come from, we're talking about Tulsa Trace, we are building out a retaining wall, and we are building.
Well, people, of course, that is stressful. I mean, just to hear it is stressful. And I think maybe we should turn to some of the scenes that took place today, so you get an appreciation as to put a practical experience with, of course, the verbal descriptions that you would have heard, of course, earlier from Kadisha Amin, the Minister of Rural and Local Government, Rural Development and Local Government, and that of the Minister of Works, wow, she's a popular minister, Julian John. Yes, indeed. So let's look at some of these.
Flooding hit Trinidad and Tobago yesterday afternoon, following heavy rain since Tuesday night that was preceded by heavy downpours over the weekend. The weather forecast for continued heavy rain has prompted a severe weather warning that has been extended until 4 p.m. today, with vulnerable communities warned to prepare for possible flooding. Yesterday's heavy rain began before midday and...
Of course, we were told that orange alert will subside tomorrow, Friday, tomorrow, by around 6 o'clock. But you know, meteorology is not a precise science. These experts can't predict exactly what will happen, but at least they can give you a sense of what may happen so that you can adequately prepare.
Persisted for long periods in parts of North and South Trinidad. By midday, flooding was reported in Pinal, and by 1 p.m. the Southwestern Regional Health Authority had taken the decision to close the Rock Road Health Center. However, the water had receded by the afternoon, which the company attributed to previous mitigation work. Today, Thursday, students sitting the CSEC and CAPE exams were assured that every effort was being made to ensure they arrived safely at their exam venues, despite severe flooding in parts of Trinidad. Secondary schools will not be used as emergency shelters. The Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government has...
Let's pause and go to the line. Yes, indeed. We do it as we see it. Let me just Hey, a pleasant good night. Welcome to the corridor.
I know is this something about this?
Yes.
Under the PNM. You know is this something about all this? Under the PNM.
Yeah.
You are telling people that is adverse weather condition. That is normal. That is normal weather.
Yeah, they could tell you is the moon reached closer to the earth and created a situation. That's the kind of hogwash the previous Minister of Works would tell us.
Yeah, and climate change. And it affected it. And you know the nice thing about it? $100 million in property tax. And before that, you starve the regional corporation under the UNCs and them. You didn't give them the subvention to run the corporation.
Oh, yes.
And now, the Honorable Ms. Kadisha Amin is on his side and in front leading with the same grasshoppers tools on them.
Yes.
And they make it look good. And they merge them together to get the work done. You see how stink the last the minister was? I don't know who he was, but he get $200 million for contract. Where that money go on? So you see, I want the people who are listening to this program to understand that. And what I would like to tell you is that tomorrow is the 13th. In the 13th Parliament, with 13 representatives.
Yeah, in the 13th Parliament, yes.
To sit down on the 13th hour. Huh? You see that? The 13th hour, you know?
Yes.
Check it. At the 13th hour. So I have to tell you, witchcraft and crapo really go hand in hand. So Uncle Lennox, I'll stay tuned to the Parliament channel to hear more.
Oh yes,
So
yes. All of us will be glued to our sets, yes. Thank you. So people, of course, there you have it, of course, live and direct, what has transpired today. It's very important that we understand the reality of our situation, and that, of course, some of which are human intervention that created the problem, and this human intervention that will, of course, solve the problem as well.
Includes South Oropouche, the Caparo Valley, and the Caroni River Basin, all of which have experienced flooding of roads and homes. The Caroni River has significantly swollen, and reports from the east also confirm rising water levels around the Manuel Congo River. This is the first time in quite some time that we have had such severe river flooding, particularly in the Caroni River Basin and further east, around the Manuel Congo River, Amin said. People in these areas should remain vigilant and secure their homes with sandbags. The Trinidad and Tobago Meteorological Service has raised the river flood warning to orange, warning of continued risk in low-lying and flood-prone areas. Primary schools and community centers are being prepared to accommodate displaced residents. The ministry is urging residents to monitor official information and avoid unnecessary travel if roads are still flooded or impassable. Our teams are on the ground, distributing sandbags, monitoring river levels, and assisting families affected by the flooding, Amin said. Customers in Penal experienced temporary travel delays due to flash flooding on roads on June 11, but the chairman of the Penal DB Regional Corporation, PDRC, credited the rapid reseeding of the waters to an improved mitigation plan. The road was flooded by heavy but brief rain shortly before midday after overnight downpours. Parts of Penal Rock Road were barely passable by low-lying vehicles such as cars and trains. Many drivers pulled over as they planned their next move. Some dared to follow behind brave motorists who decided to risk driving their cars through the water, while others turned around, hoping to find an alternative route. Don't study it. It'll go down in 15 to 20 minutes. One resident shouted to the Newsday team, who were among the motorists stranded on the riverbank by the rising waters. Without the risk of causing expensive damage to their vehicles, some pedestrians opted to walk through the floodwaters, while at least one person was seen jumping onto the back of a truck to catch a ride through the flash flood. The floods also prompted the Southwestern Regional Health Authority to close the Rock Road Health Center at 1 p.m. PDRC Chairman Gautam Maharaj said parts of Clark Road and Clark Rochar Road had also experienced similar flooding. He attributed the rapid receding of the waters to mitigation efforts undertaken under the new UNC government after it took office last month. The Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government launched the flood mitigation exercise on May 13th, focusing on clearing, dredging, and cleaning waterways across the country. Several waterways in the PDRC catchment area have been part of it, using larger machinery that Maharaj said the corporation had been requesting for years. He said the exercise is also ongoing. This is a joint exercise. This is a very integrated exercise. It is supported by every member of parliament and instructed by the Prime Minister. So, there is political will, that's what I call it. I see the main difference. One might ask why this beautiful outcome did not come earlier and people had to go through the trauma. Of course, it requires what I call political will. While most of the flooding was confined to low-lying areas of the road, some nearby residents unfortunately had water seeping into their homes. One of the areas affected was Old Canam Road, Rock Road. The first two homes on the road reported that several inches of water had entered their homes when they broke through the barriers. VJ Beam told Newsday that this was a common occurrence for them because the vacant land was mined. He said this caused all the water to flow across Penal Rock Road into their road and home. Newsday witnessed the incident during a heavy downpour when water crossed the main road and flowed into the lower Old Canam Road, which is several feet lower. Every time we go somewhere and see it raining, we have to leave and go back home, said his mother, who did not give her name. Beam said they had several inches of water in their home, and their water pump was damaged by the flooding. His neighbor, Andel Cudjoe, said their councillor Shani Boudram had helped them by clearing the drains behind their homes to allow water to flow more quickly. But now he believes it is time to build infrastructure. But that's all you can do. The water that's flowing from there, this drain, along Old Canam Road, can't handle it. While not familiar with the specifics, Maharaj said the company is aware of complaints about mining in the town and is investigating. Whatever activity is being done, even if it's private, our position is, and I'm backed by the law, that there should be no inconvenience as a result of someone's activity. So, we have actually initiated investigations into 2 such mining operations. We support people who are mining on their private land, but there should be no adverse consequences to other members of the community. Maharaj said there were also reports of fallen trees being handled by the company's Disaster Management Unit, DMU, and assisted by TNTC and the fire service. The recent rain was caused by a tropical wave passing over both islands. As a result, the TT Meteorological Office issued a severe weather warning, which came into effect at 2 a.m. on June 10th and was expected to end at 4 p.m. on June 11th. However, the warning was extended until 4 p.m. on June 12th. The office said thunderstorms were expected overnight, but there was a moderate, 60%. Chance of intermittent heavy rain and isolated thunderstorms returning on the morning of June 12th. He warned of an increased risk of street flooding and landslides, particularly in areas with saturated soil. He said while major rivers were below significant levels, river levels were continuing to rise as a result of the recent rainfall. The Meteorological Office appealed to communities in flood and landslide-prone areas to remain vigilant, take precautions when necessary, and monitor the latest information from official sources.
Endeavor, right? When you endeavor and joining area earlier as well.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. But let's get back, of course, to a little bit more of what the press conference subsequent to the...
So thank you for joining.
Subsequent to the cabinet meeting. Let's get the ending.
We'll take the big bags of sand, etc. So basically, we are going to heighten. The reason we were talking to the stakeholders yesterday was to assure them that we are going to have some stockpiling days. So prior to that boat going off to dry docking, we are going to enhance the service of Cargo Star into Tobago to ensure that for the retailers who need to stock up, they will have the opportunity to do. And but as I said, basically what is being put on is not ideal, but it is sufficient to get the job done during that period. And of course, we are going to have a very intense communication campaign, which would have started from yesterday with notices to stakeholders and users about the schedule changes or alternate arrangement, some continued engagement with the affected, those who could be impacted, the business groups, dedicated personnel to ensure smooth operations, dedicated telephone, people on the ground, because we want to ensure for within a 24-hour cycle that information and assistance is there. So no one feels helpless or concerned about the quality of service or whether they will have any service at all. That is not, there'll be no gap in that service, right? So we have looked at the challenges and do that gap analysis and put things in place to ensure that we can, as the part of the government's commitment to inclusive national development, that is, of course, between Trinidad and Tobago, we believe, and our Honorable Prime Minister has said so in very unambiguous terms, that she sees the strategic, she looks at the strategic infrastructure priorities for the island, including enhancement of the inter-island connectivity, and of course, ongoing port enhancement, etc. So this, based on what the Honorable Prime Minister has been saying, he has described the engagement as part of a new phase of side-by-side development grounded in mutual respect, shared responsibility, and a unified approach to national progress. She has emphasized that every effort is being made to minimize the disruptions in the Tobago's operation and called on all relevant stakeholders to adopt a results-driven, collaborative mindset to ensure the success during this period of transition. I thank you very much.
Well, there you have it, people. Of course, that was the presentation of the Minister of Works, of course, Ms. Julie John. And we're going to have another, of course, contribution as well. But let's pause and go straight to the line, because, of course, we give way to the line, to those on the line at all times. Let's hear what she has to say. President, good night. Welcome to the corridor. Welcome to the corridor. Yes, I'm on air now. Hello?
It was a mistake. I was unsure.
Oh, all right, okay, no problem.
There was a mistake.
All right, no problem. That's all right. You can make a mistake anytime. Yes, indeed. But let's get back, of course, to the press conference.
News with respect to the weather, but today I wish to bring some sunshine this afternoon. I am happy to announce that the Cabinet has agreed and we have approved a company's amnesty for those companies that may have been affected with respect to the filing of various post-incorporation documents. So we will have a waiver of penalties for late filing, which will be published by legal notice from the period January 31, 2025 to September 15, 2025. And this matter was in fact approved by the Cabinet today. So a company's amnesty, will be enforced, and I repeat again, from the 31st of January 2025 to the 15th of September 2025. It will be an amnesty that operates retroactively. And as you all know, with respect to what has happened at the company's registry, there was the introduction and the digitization of key services at the Registrar General's Department, in particular the company's registry. And this was in line with some of our obligations with respect to FATF and the Global Forum. In fact, when you look at the numbers with respect to cross and filing, there have been so far, for the period 1st of January 2023 to the 26th of May 2025, the filing of over 87,835 post-incorporation documents, which includes annual returns both for profit and non-profit and external companies, notice of change of secretaries, notice of change of directors, and notice of change of address. And it was published earlier this year, I believe, in the newspaper that with respect to an audit that was done at the Register of the Companies, conducted as of the 16th of May 2025, that approximately 27,649 companies are in default of the Companies Act, having failed to submit annual returns for more than 3 years. There was a strike-off exercise that was done, and the Registrar General would have struck off over 46,671 companies for failure to file annual returns. The Registrar General would have issued public notices for various companies to become compliant with this. Now, with the introduction of the amnesty and the extension of this amnesty period, it provides an essential opportunity for companies wishing to remain active to fulfill their obligations without incurring late filing penalties under the Companies Act, and to provide for those companies that have been struck out due to non-compliance so that they can in fact now be restored on the register. The Registrar General will not exercise the power of striking out of the registrar during the registry during this amnesty period. And I will give you some statistics just now of not only private companies that were struck out from the register, but there are a list of state enterprises that were also struck out from the registrar and have been non-compliant with respect to provisions under the Companies Act. We have been, as Minister of Legal Affairs, the Law Association did write to me expressing their concern with respect to this matter, and they have also made a request with respect to the company's amnesty. And this is one of the initiative of a very caring administration, where we listen, we consult, and then we act. So during this period of the amnesty, persons have had difficulties with respect to the online filings and so on. The Registrar General's Department is prepared during this period to implement an over-the-counter filing system to assist companies in fulfilling their obligations, and the service is designed to provide essential support during this transition, ensuring that companies can efficiently update their records and in fact achieve compliance. However, I am reminding members of the public who are willing to avail themselves of this amnesty that they also have, while we have the over-the-counter filing, they must also be registered for companies' registrars account, the CRA, to facilitate the attaching of paper filing to the digital identity of the applicant, and to ensure that the Registrar General upholds the integrity of the documents that were in fact filed. So this is us bringing some relief to persons, companies, with respect to the non-compliance in Trinidad and Tobago. We know we are now regulated under rigid regulations because of our FATF, CFATF, and Global Forum requirements. And I want to share with you the names of the state enterprises that were in fact struck out, and those state enterprises that are in fact in breach of the law, because I want to explain something to you. A state enterprise is incorporated, some of them, by way of the Companies Act. So it means that they have to comply with the regulations and the law of the Companies Act, just like any private company. The difference is that the shareholder in most of these state enterprises will be the corporation sole, which is the Minister of Finance. So they are obligated to comply with the provisions of the Companies Act. And every year on the anniversary date, the company has to file something called an annual return. If this annual return is not filed for a period of 3 years, the Registrar General has the power under the law to strike out the company. So the first company, and I'm sorry to disappoint Ms. John, is the National Marine and Maintenance Services Company Limited, a very critical company under the Ministry of Works and Infrastructure. They were struck out on the 16th of January 2025. Tourism Trinidad Limited was struck out on the 10th of March 2025. So those two were struck out. These are the list of those companies that are now in breach of the law and have not filed their annual returns. Alutrint Limited, the Estate Management and Business Development Company Limited, known as EMBDC. E-Tech, Export TT, Golden Grove Buku Limited, that was the company set up with respect to the Sandals project. Invest TT, National Commission for Self-Help Limited, National Helicopter Services Limited, National Information and Communication Technology Company Limited, National Infrastructure Development Company Limited, that's NITCO, the National Investment Fund Holding Company Limited, NIF, the Palo Seco Agricultural Enterprises Limited, PSAEL, the Rural Development Company of Trinidad and Tobago Limited.
People, of course, is reading out a list of state enterprises that have been struck off the list of, and from, of course, the company's registrar. So they are saying that there's an amnesty now that they can reinstate them through, of course, certain conditionalities.
So TTT, your last annual return was filed in 2023. So these are all of the companies that have not filed their annual returns within the prescribed period of the law. So both state enterprises and also private companies, privately owned companies, will also be able to avail themselves of this period of the company's amnesty, as I said, to bring some relief to people in Trinidad and Tobago. So I thank you all very much, and we are now all open to questions.
All right, so once again, of course, post-cabinet, there was, of course, the Minister of Legal Affairs, Saddam Hussein, who took the podium and was talking about, of course, some of the companies.
Minister Amin,
Both, well, of course,
in terms
he's
of
mentioned state enterprises, but there are other private ones that have not registered, and there is an amnesty in place.
A hotline or something that they can use to call?
Yes. We are advising anyone in flood-affected areas to contact their regional corporations at the earliest possible time. If you have a student who has to go to school for exams tomorrow, and because of that, we were able to put several instances, put transport in place at various regional corporations. In some cases, our chairmen themselves participated in transporting the students. So any parent who has a concern, please contact your nearest regional corporation, local government councillor, or disaster management unit. And we have the transport in terms of trucks, we have the dinghies if the water levels come up much higher, and the troop carriers from the Trinidad and Tobago Regiment.
How many people have flooded out after night or the morning? What is your advice to them? Do they call anyone? Do they stay? Do they, are there shelters for them to go, for example?
Yes, we have we have prepared several shelters to be activated. In those flood-prone areas, people are aware of where their shelters are, and we will also circulate through the media a list of shelters that will be activated. We also continue to share the phone numbers, the hotlines, at every regional corporation for any person to contact. I also want to thank the media for its role in keeping the public informed, and I want to ask all media houses to ensure that the information you are sharing is up to date. A couple hours ago, I saw something posted, I think it was on, no, I know it was on CNC3's page, and that is an outdated memo that we would have sent out with regional corporations' contact information. The updated one also includes numbers for Tobago. So please ensure that you are sharing updated information as it comes from the Met Office, from the disaster management units, as well as what? Oh, this is it. It's on the screen. It's on the screen. So here you will see the city corporations, the borough corporations, the regional corporations, and the Tobago Emergency Relief. And this was issued more recently, so I ask you to please ensure that you are using this one. If you have trouble remembering, just remember yellow is the code. But please use these, okay?
Minister
Any other questions? Go ahead.
The amnesty, can you just explain, does it go back, a few years, so if you didn't file, and you've been struck out now, does it go back a few years when you haven't filed?
Okay, so I think I understand what you're asking. If a company fails to have filed their documents, let's say 3 years ago, they can take advantage. Every month there will be a penalty being attached, and that penalty will keep growing until they're ready to become compliant. That company can take advantage of having those fees and late payments waived. So therefore no. So there are two things. A company, if it's struck out based on the Registrar General, 3 years or less, they have not paid the annual returns, or filed the annual returns, the Registrar General can struck out. If it's more than 3 years, they will have to make an application to the court to be restored if it's more than 3 years. If it's less than a 3-year period and they have been struck out, they can come back. But companies who are not struck out, they can in fact take advantage of the amnesty. Yeah? So that is one of the relief. And I forgot to mention, and that's such an important point that slipped me, is that this all took place within the last administration. Is either share incompetence or mismanagement at most of these state enterprises. And we have seen some of them still clutching on to power, and they have refused in some instances to resign. And this is some of the issues that we have identified based on their lack of performance over the last 9 years.
Thank you.
Hi, Sonolala, TDT News Minister. I mean, you spoke about, students being transported to these exams. Could you clarify in terms of whether any student would not have been able to sit the exam study, and if at all any make-up exams through CXC Cape?
I'm sorry you missed Dr. Dowlat. As Minister of Education, the Ministry of Education will be in a better position to report where students miss exams. What we are doing is providing support to ensure that all schools, in fact, all students do have the opportunity. What I know is that many students did make it to school without the support, but where students were terribly affected, I'll tell you, in the San Rafael area, in an area called Peters Field. I mean, we had students going to Port of Spain, San Francisco girls, coming up to Lakshmi Girls College, and many of those areas were, apart from the students, the area surrounding the students' home being flooded out, the route to get to the school was also flooding out. So we would deal with requests that come to us. The Minister of Education and the Ministry of Education have been very proactive. In fact, they compiled a list of schools that they felt were at risk of flood even before we did, and we have been working together even through the night. So tomorrow, this is a compulsory exam for all Form 6 students. So we want to ensure that they don't miss it. They have done the paper 2 already, and they only have to do the paper 1. So I really don't want to have to jeopardize them. As a mother, I know the work that a child puts into studying and preparing for exams. So we want to wish all our students good luck. And I have confidence in the Minister of Education based on his collaboration with us thus far to ensure that all students write their exams.
You mentioned councillors have been working hard, they have boots on the ground. This just mentioned that had started on May 13th, I believe, the flood mitigation program.
Yes.
How has the regional corporations been doing in terms of their readiness, their efficiency during the last 3 to 4 days?
What we have done is provided regional corporations from the day we launched this flood mitigation with additional manpower, technical support, additional equipment. We have also teamed up corporations so that they take turns sending their own equipment and labor to their neighbors, and then they return the favor, so that you have intense work in specific areas at a time, and the removal of the debris, because when they clear drains, you must remove the debris. And because of that, you have a lot of those watercourses who clear. So even though the flood, you did have some flooding, the water went down faster. I have been visiting regional corporations. Like, I get reports on a daily basis, but I find value in attending, going there myself. And most corporations have really maximized on this opportunity. They are really pushing. They are working day and night, late all in the weekend, 2 o'clock in the morning. And there are some corporations whom I felt could do a little more in terms of not just their regular drain cleaning, but really pushing. And that is why I made it my business to sit with them and really drill down. This is not a UNC corporation exercise. This exercise is for every single region and every flood-prone area. And therefore, if a councillor does not do the necessary in terms of sending us the water courses to be cleared, making a request for additional equipment, and directing the labor from their district to clear those water courses, then they are doing an injustice to the people who live within that district. And I'm saying this is not a UNC or PNM exercise. All councillors, UNC or PNM, every regional corporation, it is your duty to be out there on the field and to make sure that this flood mitigation takes place in every region across Trinidad.
Well, people, of course, it is about 10 o'clock now, and I think we have had a comprehensive understanding as to what is happening, what is being done as far as flood mitigation, and of course, responding to the flood situation across the country. But let's take this last question before we make our departure.
This roadway broke away. Has there been any assessment done prior to this, and is there any concern at this point in time?
We were actually on that. I was actually on that roadway maybe 2 weeks ago. I think the Minister of Local Government followed that visit. What they were doing was resurfacing the road. I think there was some other very extensive work going on there, because they were saying the water, you're very right, could extend over a mile or so when it starts flooding in that area. Now, with the level of rainfall we have had, it could happen, quite frankly. But hopefully we'll be able to preserve the surface, because
yes, people, of course, we have come to the end. Don't forget, tomorrow night I will not be here, but of course on Saturday night we will return. Yes, indeed, of course, some of this we will, of course, air further for you on Saturday. Don't forget, of course, that tomorrow morning, the ground report, Andy, Mike, and myself, as we continue with these and other issues. Have a wonderful rest of the night. God bless, and see you, of course, tomorrow morning and on Saturday night. Goodbye.
You may not mention that it's probably not sufficient enough, but are you satisfied that it would be sufficient given that we're going into
collaborative, because the cabo carries about 150 trucks every day. There will be a shortfall. You could do it from that presidency, because the Spirit, it carries about 75 vans, the Galleon about 60, so that's 100. The Emperor will carry about 80 or so of those what do you call it? The large containers. Exactly. So there will be a bit of a shortfall, and that is why we've said we have given a month look ahead, being proactive. So there will be a period of enhanced service with the cabin staff to ensure persons who wishes they can stop in the car. Right? The stakeholders have assured us that the first 2 weeks will be okay. Right? It's the third week that will present that challenge. In the spirit of transparency, so we know what we are treating with. So definitely we'll ensure that there's enough capacity. Even some additional saving time with the spirit guidance messages, etc. Right? Yes, sir.
Yes. With respect to the dry docking of the cabin staff, can you provide an update of Canada, which the government would have commanded from HCL?
Canada is a place, I mean, you want to take away some of the best nationalities. You know, the driver. But you know that's a subversive